welcome to the Southern View. All the top national and southern stories over the next 60 minutes with Vasudha and me. Namaskaram, Namaskara, Baunnara, Nallarkingla.
Welcome, Veera, and a very happy Dashera, Bijoya, Ayudha Puja to all our viewers. It's 100 years of the RSS. The chief of the RSS, Mohan, Bhagwat, has spoken today as part of his annual Vijay Dashmi address. But what did he say? What did he miss? All that and more coming up. But first up, the headlines. Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi slams Modi government in Colombia. Rahul Gandhi says democracy in India is under attack. BJP has hit back saying Rahul Gandhi is a habitual offender. Two policemen attached to the Tiruvannamalai East police station in Tamil Nadu have been arrested and suspended from service on charges of gang raping a 25-year-old woman, a native of Andhra Pradesh. Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivakumar took strong exception to party members discussing leadership change in the state, saying such statements are damaging the party. Well, RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat in his Vijay Dashmi address marking the Sangh centenary celebration stressed that while no nation can exist in isolation, Veera, dependence must not become helpless compulsion, making Swadeshi and self-reliance vital. Now, he cautioned against policies that harm the environment. He warned of demographic conspiracies and also unrest in neighboring countries and invoked B.R. Ambedkar's warning on the grammar of anarchy to argue that chaos often weakens societies instead of reforming them. He also highlighted lessons from Pahalgam terror attack. He called for unity, vigilance, and a balance between interdependence and sovereignty.
That's right, Vasudha. There was also several reactions that came in from the opposition also as far as the RSS 100th anniversary is concerned, including one from Chief Minister M.K. Stalin questioning Prime Minister Modi for releasing commemorative coins and stamps, and also sharp reactions from Pinarayi Vijayan, Kerala Chief Minister. Let's listen in to the reactions from all sides and the RSS chief himself first before we deep dive into that discussion.
प्राकृतिक उथल पुथल है तो जनजीवन में भी उथल पुथल दिख रही है। श्रीलंका में, बाद में बांग्लादेश में, बाद में नेपाल में, हमारे पड़ोसी देशों में भी हमने इसका अनुभव किया। अब कभी कभी हो जाता है, प्रशासन जनता के पास नहीं रहता, संवेदनशील नहीं रहता, लोकाभिमुख नहीं रहता, उनकी जनता की अवस्थाओं को ध्यान में रखकर नीतियां नहीं बनती तो असंतोष रहता है। परंतु उस असंतोष को इस प्रकार व्यक्त होना, ये किसी के लाभ की बात नहीं है। अमेरिका ने जो नई टैरिफ नीति अपनाई, उनके अपने हित के लिए अपनाई होगी, लेकिन उसकी मार तो सभी पर पड़ रही है। इसलिए ये सारा परिदृश्य अथवा ये सारी प्रचलित पद्धति उस पर हम निर्भर हो जाए ऐसी नहीं है। विश्व में, विश्व का जीवन परस्पर निर्भरता से ही चलता है। राष्ट्रों में आपस में सब प्रकार के संबंध होने पड़ते हैं। अकेला राष्ट्र अलगाव में, आइसोलेशन में जी नहीं सकता। परंतु ये निर्भरता मजबूरी में न बदल जाए, क्योंकि वो कब बदलेगी, कैसे बदलेगी, उसका कोई पता नहीं। और इसलिए इस निर्भरता को मानते हुए, विश्व जीवन की एकता को मानते हुए, हमको इसको मजबूरी न बनाते हुए जीना अगर है तो स्वदेशी और स्वावलंबन का कोई परिणाम नहीं, कोई पर्याय नहीं।
ഇസ്രായേലിനോട് വല്ലാത്ത മമതയല്ലേ? വളരെ ഹീനമായ ഭാഷയിൽ പാലസ്തീനെയും പാലസ്തീൻ ജനതയെയും ആക്രമിക്കാൻ തയ്യാറായ ഇസ്രായേൽ മന്ത്രിയെ ഇവിടെ കൊണ്ടുവന്ന് ചർച്ച നടത്തി അദ്ദേഹവുമായി കരാർ ഒപ്പിടാൻ ബിജെപി ഗവൺമെന്റ് തയ്യാറായില്ലേ? ഇത് BJP കാണിക്കുന്ന രാഷ്ട്രീയമില്ല. കാരണം ഇസ്രായേലിലെ സിയോണിസ്റ്റും ഇവിടുത്തെ RSSഉം ഇരട്ടപ്പെട്ട സഹോദരങ്ങളാണ്.
Let they do, it is their whatever they do, but they are no way connected to the freedom struggle. We are connected only to the freedom struggle.
RSS भारतीय जनता पार्टी का मदरशिप रहा है, उनके 100 साल हो रहे हैं और उसके संदर्भ में उन्होंने बात की है, पर ये डिनाई नहीं किया जा सकता कि उनका राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ का एक योगदान रहा है और भारतीय जनता पार्टी उसी अनुसार काम कर रही है। सवाल ये है कि समाज सेवा से जो शुरुआत की गई और कल्चरल कॉन्टेक्स्ट की शुरुआत की गई, कहीं ना कहीं क्या RSS भी राजनीतिकरण में भारतीय जनता पार्टी को आगे रखकर एक ऐसा एजेंडा चला रही है जो किसी तरीके का एक डिविसिव एजेंडा हो?
So what are the big takeaways from RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat's speech today? Joining us now is Ram Madhav, senior member of the RSS. He's member of the National Executive of the RSS. He's also a well-known author and columnist. Thank you so much, Ram Madhav, sir, for joining us on NDTV. How do you read Mohanji's message to Gen Z specifically? Because he has clearly said that revolutions like what we saw in Nepal, hardly lead to anything substantial except chaos and disruption, and that India's Gen Z is patriotic. Some would say that agitations and protests are important, especially for young people, to engage with politics and ask the right questions.
Bhagwat ji talked in the general context of how we should always adopt peaceful and democratic means to express our sentiments, express our resentment, our anger, or whatever it is. In the context, he did refer to incidents that took place in our neighborhood, but not to comment upon the sovereign affairs of those countries. Bhagwat ji's comments are important in the context that we have seen, situations in Ladakh, elsewhere, where protests spiraling to kind of violence and all. Bhagwat ji insisted that, while there is full space for protest, resentment, and all that in democracies, one has to follow peaceful and democratic means. He referred to all the revolutions that had happened in the world in the last several centuries, which proved futile. And he gave a lot of examples. He did not talk only about neighborhood. So it has to be understood that a responsibility rests on the whole country. There can be sometimes anger in the minds of the people, but it has to be always channelized in a democratic and peaceful manner.
Right. Ram Madhav, sir, let me also ask you a political question here. How do you see Prime Minister Modi's heartfelt note for the RSS that he posted today morning? Yesterday, he spoke again very highly of the RSS. He's been praising the RSS at least 3 times in the last 2 months. The opposition is saying that this is only to please the RSS for building consensus on BJP president.
Of course, there need not be any other view about whatever Prime Minister has said earlier in an article about Bhagwat ji, or yesterday's speech while releasing the stamp and a coin commemorating the centenary of RSS, or the note he released today. It is his genuine sentiment. Remember, Prime Minister Modi has been an RSS activist for almost 6 decades now. He has joined RSS at a very young age and he grew in that culture, in that tradition. So he has his roots in that. He expressed that heartfelt feeling. Everybody knows, and he himself believes that whatever greatness he has achieved today also is partly because of his association with the RSS, which he has said it several times before. And that is the reason why the government decided to release that commemorative stamp and that coin yesterday. Remember, there was no demand from RSS per se, but because of that goodwill that the whole country has, and also Prime Minister and his colleagues in the government have, they decided that this is the right way of expressing our gratitude to that great organization which has done so much service to this country. So Prime Minister's expression through articles or articulations should be seen as his genuine feeling for a sort of a mother organization which has nurtured him for over 6 decades now.
Right. But Mr. Madhav, you've worked very closely with Mohan ji. What do you think what does he mean when he says that everybody needs to get rid of this us versus them mindset? Because the opposition is specifically saying that the RSS is antithetical to democracy, and this is something that Rahul Gandhi has repeatedly said. They've said that the RSS had no role to play in the freedom struggle, something that the RSS has continuously rebutted. Do you see the rejection of RSS by a certain section of India's political class as a big challenge for the RSS?
Oh, actually, the criticisms that some sections of the political class continue to make have already been rejected by the people of the country, remember. Today, RSS enjoys so much credibility in the country. Actually, I would say more credibility than some of these political leaders. So it has widespread acceptance. It has become the national mainstream of this country. It has gained the respect and admiration of people across political spectrum. In fact, Prime Minister referred to those Congress leaders who went and participated in RSS movement, RSS activities. So I don't really give any big importance to that criticism, and there is nothing new in that criticism that they have been making for many, many decades now. But Bhagwatji's statements have to be understood in a slightly different light. Each Sarsanga Chalak of RSS, each head of RSS has always added a contemporary message to the functioning of the RSS. When it was Dr. Hedgewar's time, independence movement was the first prime objective. So he always insisted that we should work for the independence of the country. Then Golwalkar added a spiritual, religious element to it. Golwalkar expanded the organization. Like that, every chief of the organization added a new dimension to its growth. That's how RSS remained a very contemporaneous organization, very relevant organization. And Bhagwatji, he of course has now sought to expand RSS message to all the 1.4 billion Indians. And when he says that RSS, and today's speech also he emphasized on that, RSS doesn't believe in us versus them. And RSS believes that all people, irrespective of religion, caste and everything, are one society, one people. When he's saying this to those sections also, which believe they are distinct, but also to RSS supporters and RSS members also. Yeah. That in this stage, when you have emerged as the national mainstream, you should give up that kind of thinking that we are separate and they are separate. You should now try to embrace the entire Indian society that includes India's different religions and different castes and classes.
Right. Ram Madhav sir, my last question to you. When Mohan Bhagwat talks about Hindutva, he talks about an accommodating Hindutva, an inclusive Hindutva. जो अच्छे हैं हमारे हैं, जो कम अच्छे हैं वो भी हमारे हैं. But there's also another Hindutva that plays out on the ground. We've seen certain exclusionary episodes of Garba Jihad, or for that matter, Navratri celebrations. Certain Hindu groups saying that non-Hindus cannot be part of this. How do you see alignment in that? Because people listening to the RSS chief are very happy, but then they also raise questions when the second thing happens, and that completely is unfortunate.
So what RSS stands for is what we hear from the Sarsang Chalak, the chief of RSS. That is the Hindutva, Hindu Rashtra idea that every RSS member, and of course those who support RSS, adhere to and should adhere to. There cannot be any other definition of Hindutva that one can articulate or one can practice. But if there is anything different, that has to be tackled carefully. One thing is sure, our approach in RSS is reject none, try and bring everybody into this kind of thought process. So if anybody is probably seen as crossing any such lines, there should be effort to bring them into this kind of thought process, which we believe as a real cultural and civilizational message of our country. What we are calling as Hindutva is that same message which from Vivekananda to Aurobindo to Gandhi to Savarkar to Tilak to Ambedkar had articulated during the independence movement. So we have to bring everybody to this thought process. That will be the effort of the RSS.
Right. Thank you, Ram Madhav, member of the National Executive of the RSS, for joining us. Ram Madhav, they're making an important point that the RSS today is mainstream only because people of the country, people of the Indian society have accepted the organization. Also joining us now, Tehseen Poonawalla. He's a political analyst. We also have Tushar Gupta, analyst and author. Thank you both of you for joining us as part of this broadcast. Veera is also here with us. My first question to you, Tehseen, you heard Ram Madhav and also in the morning Mohan Bhagwat speak. What did he miss? And would you agree with me with the fact that the RSS is also growing because of the political might of the BJP, or do you think it's otherwise?
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Vasu. At the onset, wish all my fellow panelists, Tushar, everybody, and all the viewers a very happy Vijay Dashmi and Gandhi Jayanti and Lal Bahadur Shastri Ji Jayanti. There are two aspects to your question, and I was last time on your show, Vasudha, when the RSS chief had done the press conference, which I thought was very nice. I think the RSS as an organization is trying to sort of be in context with what today's India is. But to your second part of the question that you asked, that is the RSS feeding of the BJP, or in some cases the BJP feeding of the RSS, I think that is passé. I think both organizations will grow together. The RSS does need the BJP to sort of help it in its political and other agendas that it may have. The BJP does need the RSS cadre to be on the ground to win an election. And I remember Tushar and I were on another channel and we were speaking off the record, and this is during the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. And Tushar and I were agreed that the 400 up ki bar 400 par may seem difficult because the RSS wasn't on the ground as much for the BJP, and of course Nadda ji's that statement. So the RSS brings in certain amount to the BJP. It also gives it some sort of a moral leadership. The BJP brings in the laws that the RSS wants to bring in, or the cultural influence. So I think that both organizations need each other. You can't have an organization without the other. It is wrong to say one will be superior and one will be inferior.
All right, Tehseen, you're making that point, and I just want to broaden this conversation from the politics to also the ideological inconsistency, if I may, Tushar. On the one hand, you have this grand message of the RSS being inclusive. On the ground, it manifests itself in an extremely divisive ideology. Many would argue, from whether it is bulldozers to lynching. Now, as long as that kind of virulent manifestation is there on the ground, it will be considered as something that's exclusionary and not something that can be actually inclusive of the entire society in an extremely polarized atmosphere. And that's a critical challenge. So one would expect condemnation of such actions as well on the ground.
Look, there are 2 points that we need to highlight, and just extending Tehseen's argument. The BJP, with the exception of 6 years of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, did not have the kind of political power it has today. It was only since 2014 that the BJP under Narendra Modi has been enjoying the kind of political capital it has been. So to say RSS's existence is somehow related to BJP's political capital would be entirely incorrect. It has survived for the other 90 years before 2014, and it will survive in the future as well, even though the agendas will concurrently, or they will be worked on together. Now, coming to the divisive agenda that many accuse the BJP, the RSS of running. Look, RSS on the ground also has a lot of schools. The Vidya Bharati school, to give you one simple example. In Uttar Pradesh, one would assume one of the most polarized states in the Hindi heartland, they have Muslims and Christian students studying in RSS schools run by the RSS. On the ground, you have any natural disaster, you have any emergency of those sorts, the RSS is there to help everyone. So the RSS has always been inclusive in its approach towards the society. Had they not been inclusive in the approach, I don't think they would have sustained for this long. That's very important to understand. A lot of people confuse the RSS for just being a political arm of the BJP, but the RSS is also more than that. The RSS has worked within the society. It continues to work. So yes, the kind of agendas they have approached, for example, Article 370, they have been chasing that agenda far before it became mainstream. But that doesn't mean they're not an inclusive organization. I think on the ground, it's very, very inclusive.
There will be many arguments against it as well, sir.
Right. Tehseen, Veera and Tushar, let me just go to Pavan Varma now. He's a former MP, former diplomat who's joining us. Please stay with us. Pavan Varma, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV, sir. How has the acceptability of the RSS grown in the last many years, specifically the last 11 years? Would you say that the organization is far more relevant than what we thought it is, and why? Pavan Varma, if you can hear us. Okay, we'll just go back to Tehseen. Tehseen, the same question to you. How contemporary, how relevant is the RSS today? Because these are also a lot of conservative ideas. Although the RSS wants to also project a lot of progressive ideas, they want to be seen as consultative. But how relevant is the RSS today?
It clearly is relevant. If your question is how relevant they are, I mean, the Prime Minister, who many thought was the most powerful...
socially, not politically, socially.
No, socially, ultimately, those who did come out and vote for the BJP politically came out or didn't come out is because of the RSS cadre. So, is it relevant? Yes. Is it socially relevant? I think, again, that is, there is no straitjacket answer. The RSS will also have to adapt to what is the diversity of India. It tries to adapt to the diversity of India. It must understand there cannot be one size jacket that fits all. And the RSS, in my opinion, is trying to soften that with Mohan Bhagwat. In fact, when I heard his press conference, I did think they're trying to reach out. Does that translate on the ground? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But you must also understand that the RSS also is carrying with it a lot of cultural, may I say, baggage or weight of the past, which is trying to bring into 2025 and sort of create a new structure for itself. So there will be pulls, pushes, there will be a new idea, there will be resistance. But this is not unique to the RSS.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tehseen. I want to ask, Vasudha, Tehseen, you make the point that sometimes it translates on the ground, sometimes it doesn't. Tushar, the point I'm trying to make is that while you underline the importance of understanding the flip side and the flaws of a Gen Z protest and sort of send a warning across, the condemnation of certain actions in absolutely unequivocal terms is absolutely essential if you want to enhance acceptability. Somewhere there is a sense that, no, that's condoned at some level and brushed under the carpet.
Look, the condemnation, it's not unique that the condemnation is not coming from the RSS. The condemnation of the kind of, say, a lynching, for instance, comes from the RSS, also comes from the BJP also. But you make a very important point about acceptability. Unfortunately, the acceptability of the RSS for an individual or an entity also has a lot to do with their own political affiliation. Many in the Congress, behind closed doors, might agree with the agenda of the RSS, but in public, the acceptability won't come because of their political affiliations. So we also have to understand a lot to do with the political acceptability or the social acceptability of the RSS has to do with one's political affiliation. Number two, I think Vasudha was asking this question about the social relevance. Let's go back to last year, January 2024. You had the consecration ceremony in Ayodhya. What was the RSS doing? You had them running a door-to-door campaign to distribute akshat, which was kind of a symbolism of invitation of sorts to every household practically in India. Now, that makes them socially relevant. They are on the ground. Look, if you want to discuss their political relevance, that is up for a very subjective debate. But if you want to ask them for the social
political
relevance,
and social relevance, no one's questioning, sir. Political and social relevance, as far as the organization is concerned, is extremely difficult to question. And I think you're right. You're making a point that it is depending on the polarized political views, whether the acceptability comes or not. But I'm talking of the narrative of a Sangh versus Samvidhan narrative that's been playing out. Tehseen, that's really the critical challenge before the RSS in terms of gaining acceptability. Where does it still remain an organization at the grassroots which professes a sense of exclusion of a large section of the population?
I think on the grassroots, the RSS is actually trying to sort of get more people to accept a homogeneous point of view. But again, it will have to create more actions. For example, and if I may give this, and this is critical of the RSS, it's never had an OBC or an SC chief. All its chiefs have been from the communities that have been not marginalized communities. So the RSS will have to answer that question, that if this is an organization for all Indians, why is an OBC or a person from the SC community not its chief? So they will have to also change their points of view and their worldview in this respect, and therefore it can be a slightly more inclusive organization. That Mohan Bhagwat is trying to do, I have no doubt about it, from the statements he's made, not just today, even in the past in his recent press conference.
Tushar Gupta, let me also ask you this question. There is a lot of backlash that I see on social media. Every time Mohan Bhagwat makes a comment on social harmony, pro-reservation, says that, caste discrimination takes place today. I see a lot of people, supporting, upper caste positions. And then there is a certain sense that the Sangh is also trying very hard to drive this position to its own supporters that there is caste discrimination in the country. Caste is a reality and one needs to be sympathetic about this. Do you see that as a point of fissure between the supporters of the Sangh and the Sangh leadership today? Tushar Gupta.
Yeah. I don't think that's one of the major concerns of the RSS. Look, you look at the agenda of the RSS. They talk about the casteless society. I think people agree across party lines. It talks about national Swadeshi movement. People should agree across party lines. They talk about how the Gen Z protest open up a vacuum for external powers to interrupt or interfere in a country. That would be agreed to across party lines. But what the people must remember that an OBC prime minister has also come from the RSS. We have to remember that. Sure, a lot more can be done, a lot more should be done, but there are steps already being taken. But yes, for better
Joining us now,
inclusivity,
Tushar Gupta, very
better
quickly, Tehseen, you wanted to say something before I let you go.
Yeah, but the RSS will also have to understand, as an NGO, it's an unregistered organization that gets in foreign funding. It can't suddenly, or its political appointees can't suddenly turn around against every NGO and then accuse it of destabilizing India when the RSS itself is not a registered organization. So why can't the RSS become registered, transparent, and put its accounts in public domain? No, but they can put their accounts in public domain. They have so much influence from our government. Their money and their contribution should be in public domain and audited by the CAG. Why doesn't the RSS take these steps? So these are places where the RSS will also have to walk the talk. No doubt about it.
Okay, thank you both of you for joining us on this broadcast. Pavan Varma, former diplomat, author, joins us now. Thank you, Mr. Varma, for being part of this show. As an observer, as an author, as a thinker, would you say that the RSS's acceptability has grown significantly in the last 11 years specifically? And if yes, why?
You see, there is a tendency to either unconditionally demonize the RSS or to unqualifiedly praise it. I think we need to take a far more mature perspective about an organization which is endured for 100 years. On the plus side, I must say that the RSS, from its inception and certainly after 1947, has been distinguishable for its internal discipline and commitment to ideology. You may or may not agree with it, and also for a certain degree of simplicity and dedication of its cadre. Let me say to you that after partition, the RSS played a yeoman's role in the rehabilitation of refugees coming in from what is now Pakistan. They did a tremendous job during the 1965 war in terms of blood donation camps and assistance as volunteers, so much so that General Karyappa praised the organization. During the Bangladesh war, again the RSS cadres who are on the ground helping our forces. When the emergency was declared, they fought against the emergency, and Jayaprakash Narayan, no less, heaped praises on the RSS. Even earlier, Dr. Zakir Hussain had called it a remarkable organization. I'm only mentioning this to you in order to have a more balanced perspective. On the other hand, I think a certain section of the RSS has been a bit, if there is such an expression, over-obsessed by a very short tract written by Savarkar on a Hindu Rashtra, which he himself watered down later. And in the changed circumstances of a constitutional republic which is secular and in which communities and faiths which are plural in nature exist, the RSS needs to take full acknowledgement of a plural, multinational, multicultural society. By and large, attempts are being made now. Mohan Bhagwat has tried to reach out to Muslims. But there is one major problem, if I may mention it to you. The RSS is complicit, in my view, whether wanting it or otherwise, in unleashing under its watch extremist, lumpen, and indisciplined forces in the right-wing spectrum of Indian politics. By that I mean organizations like Bajrang Dal and its affiliates. They are no longer under the discipline, protection and control of the RSS. And they have managed, because of their sheer numbers or the passivity of the forces, of the RSS and the BJP leadership to contribute to a very a fragile communal situation, which they often fan for purposes of short-term political dividends. The RSS needs to be careful about that and look out for it.
You're making an extremely important point, sir. You're distinguishing from the intellectual arguments of history to the lumpen elements, and that you say extremist elements which have been unleashed under the watch of the RSS. And may I also add that apart from the lumpen elements, even actions such as bulldozers in Uttar Pradesh tend to get traced back to the ideology. So for acceptability of the RSS, is it absolutely essential moving forward to A, condemn these in absolutely unequivocal terms, and B, to ensure there is sustained action to rein in these elements to ensure that the process of law and order machinery and the larger constitutional principles of justice aren't violated?
Indeed, I would say that because the RSS, I think, somewhere recognizes that while there has been especially the rule of the BJP for 11 years and more, such forces have gathered momentum, and the RSS was perhaps taken aback by the velocity and the volume of who the soldiers on the ground anymore are. The RSS needs to take cognizance of this because Mohan Bhagwat himself is trolled by the ultra-right wing of his own supporters if he tries to make any foray towards the minority community. And he says at the inauguration of the Ram Mandir, quoting Ram Rajya from Tulsidas, saying, Har nar karahi paraspar preeti. That's Ram Raj. In Ram Raj, every citizen has mutual love and respect for each other. He said that at the inauguration of the Ram temple. He was trolled for it. So obviously there are elements which are not of the RSS or who are misusing the philosophy of the RSS, and the RSS also needs to become far more plural and inclusive to be able to counter them.
You are making a very important point. The irony is that this entire, these actions are traced back to the ideology, and the ideology goes back to the RSS. I want to move away from ideology because we're completely out of time. A very, very brief political question, sir. The Prime Minister has been openly praising RSS, which is not what we've seen in the past. Do you believe that this is to tide over the perception of a bridge between the RSS and the BJP? Is there a rift within that is not coming out? What are your thoughts on it?
Very brief reply. The RSS and the BJP, even though they may claim to be separate, and perhaps in some ways they are, RSS thinks long-term, BJP thinks short-term, but they are joined at the hip. And the Prime Minister himself has been a pracharak. He owes his life, his career, and his ideology to that of the RSS. So I don't believe these are unbridgeable cleavages. On the other hand, between any two organizations, there can be differences. And perhaps the Prime Minister is trying to convey a perception that these differences don't matter, because when the president of the party, JP Nadda, said we don't need the RSS, they saw the consequences in the last Lok Sabha election. The BJP needs the RSS.
Yes.
No, may I add that you've taken a very diplomatic answer to that question. But thanks very much, Mr. Pavan Varma, for joining us here on the Southern View this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Pavan Varma, for making that very important point and also talking about what more the RSS needs to become the plural force that it wants to be. With that, it's time for a short break. Veera will be back after this.